In this particular section of the video, we are going to look into virtual buttons. So virtual buttons are another way, are another way to add buttons in your Vuforia application. There are two types of buttons that you can add. First of all, UI buttons, using simple canvas and those buttons in world space. You can do that. Another way is to use virtual buttons. All right. So in this tutorial, we are going to look into the virtual buttons. And before starting with virtual buttons, there are some rules to be followed. Some suggestions, some rules that are needed to be followed. The very first thing, all right, the very first thing that should be kept in mind that the size of the button, the size of the button should be equal or greater than 10%, of the overall target area. Always remember that the size of the button should be equal or at least, at least 10% of the overall target area. All right. Now, like if the area is 100, then the button should be at least the size of 10% of that area. All right, that's it. Another thing that is always try to place the button. Always try to place the button where the place is reach with feature points. See, in the introduction video I already showed you how to check for feature points, and open the Vuforia website and look for where the feature point is much greater. Where the quantity of feature points is much greater, and always place the button there. All right. Another thing is that insert the buttons. All right. What does that means? That means is that don't make the buttons. Don't make the buttons touch the image target borders. The borders of the image target. So always uh, give some padding in the button from the outer side. All right. So sorry, from margin in the button from the outer side. All right. So always remember that. So always insert the button so that they don't touch the borders of the image target. Another and the last point is, don't stack the buttons upon each other. All right. What does that mean? See, when you are viewing, when you are viewing from some point, when you are viewing the image target from a particular point, you would see, you would see that if you place those buttons on top of each other, you won't be able to reach the second button. It would be really it would be really hard to get to the second button. So don't ever stack the buttons upon each other. All right. So that's it. So let's start the development of our virtual button. Let's implement it. See, I would like to mention is that I'm using the same project. The same previous project that I used to uh, develop the show you the very initial steps of Vuforia. All right. So I'm using the same project, so I haven't had changed my license key and my database. Although if you want, you can do so. All right, it's totally upon you. If you want to, you can do so. You can even create a new project for implementing virtual buttons. I'm doing this because I want to keep all the source code at one place and provide it to you. All right, so it won't be cluttered up. So yeah, let's get started. The very first thing, the very first thing is you have to delete the main camera and then add a AR camera. So select Vuforia engine and click on AR camera. So let me place it on top of the directional light. Don't worry, it won't have any sort of effect, so it is totally upon me. Now I have placed my AR camera. Another thing is to add the image target. Now the image target would be same as the previous one because I haven't changed my image target, but you can do so if you want. All right. Now if I click on image target, here I get my image target. Now let me select the database. So I'm going to select from database, and now I'm going to select the database that is first AR. Here is the marker that is selected. All right. Now what I want is to create a 3D cube. All right. I would show you why. Just wait for a second. let me reset the transform of it. So as I've reset the transform, I'm going to place it at the back. All right, I'm going to place it at the back. So see, I'm using shortcut keys Q, W, E. All right, Q for the this hand tool, W for this anchor tool, and E for the rotational tool, and R for the scale tool. All right. So these are some shortcuts. So I'm using those shortcuts. All right. If you think how am I getting this, then yeah, that's how I'm getting it. Now, this cube looks a bit dull, right? Like it doesn't have any sort of colors. It's totally white, and I don't like it. So let's create a material for it. All right. Now, uh, in this, I'm also going to show you how to add textures to your material. All right. And I have already imported a texture. I have downloaded from 3dtextures.me. All right, the links are given in the AR resources file. You can check them out. All right, it is available on my website. Now let me show you the textures. Here are the textures. All right, and I'm going to tell you how to implement it. Now this is not a texture, this is just an overview file. You can check how the cube will look, but I'm directly going to implement it. All right, so first of all, delete this particular material. We don't need it. All right. So, and another thing is that first of all, create a material. All right, create a material. Let's name it textured box, or let's say cube. All right, this is what I will name it. After that, what I want you is to go to the inspector panel. All right, go to the inspector panel and select the textures you want. So what I will simply do is I will click on albedo. It would pop up a panel. Now I have to find, right, I have to find a texture I want. Now I'll find a texture that has been named as baseline. All right, so it's not showing the full name. Just wait, let me lock it. Cool. Now from here I can find what textures I want. So for the very first thing in here, I have to get a base color texture. All right, this one. This is I'm going to put this in the albedo section. All right. Now you might not see the effects in here. All right, you might not see that because we haven't applied the materials. So just drag and drop the material in here and see it has been applied in the cube. I know it is the texture has been applied, but it doesn't look good. But you won't say this after watching the whole material applying thing. All right, now in here there is another section that is metallic. Now let's find a metallic texture. So here I got a metallic texture. All right, so see, it's not like I'm identifying these textures, it is just written in the end of the names. Now I would adjust the settings a bit. All right, I would adjust the settings a bit. See, you won't like it as of now. The reason is I haven't applied other materials. That's why it's not looking realistic or good. So I'm going to apply those. Now here I have to add a normal map. This is a normal map. So I'm going to apply the normal map, and here you can see that the bids. All right, here you can see the bids in here are coming to show up. All right, they are putting the 3D aspect in here. You can see it, right? Now we have to add another thing, that is a height map. All right, so let me find the height map. Okay, yeah. Now I have applied the height map, and this height map will help me to adjust the height of the height of these particular things, right? You can let me show you from from nearly. All right. So here you can see that it is moving, right? It is moving, right? So that is what height map does. Now another thing, all right. Another thing is that we have to add an occlusion. Now this is the ambient occlusion. All right. This is the ambient occlusion mask. So now you can see that we have also added the occlusion mask. Now, if you want to increase the smoothness, you can do so, but I am not liking the smoothness that much, so it should be something like this. All right. Now, let's see if anything is left. Um, Roughness, no. All right. Let's see. Okay. As of now, all right. For us, it's we are good with this cube. All right. This looks realistic too. Now you can get all the textures. All right, there are really great textures available at 3dtextures.me. So I would really suggest to go in there and check out the textures. All right, and take the textures that you like. As simple as that. All right. Now another thing. All right, is another thing is we have to put this cube. All right, we have to make this cube a child of image target. All right, we have to make this cube a child of image target. Now click on image target. All right, and another thing that you might see that the inspector panel is not changing. That's not any sort of bugs. It is basically I have locked the inspector panel. Now I have unlocked it, so I have got all the things. All right. Now in the image target, uh, in the image target behavior script, under the add target button, you would find something a drop down that is advanced. All right, you need not to look into these properties, but for us the very important thing is this particular button, add virtual button. So click on it. All right, and you can see that it has added a virtual button. Now if you click on it, the virtual button will be visible to you. All right, now remember the rules. All right, remember the rules and try to resize it. All right, now I'm not sure. All right, and I haven't seen where are the feature points, but I'm what I'm doing is I'm putting at a particular place and I'm trying to follow all the instructions. All right, so I would suggest you to follow the instructions too. All right, so we created our virtual button. Now what? See, when you click your virtual button in the inspector panel, you would get some options. All right, you will get some options. Now, the very important thing that we have to see is the virtual button behavior script. All right, in here, here's an option sensitivity setting, that is a drop down. All right, so in the drop menu, you would find high, medium, low. Now these are the sensitivity settings. What this tells us is that how often, or you can say how exactly are we going to like when we place our hand upon sorry, over the particular mark over the particular virtual button. All right, so what will be the sensitivity, all right, or what will be the rate, all right, when it will like detect. All right, it would detect and start doing the function. So that's what sensitivity means. It tells that how sensitive the particular button is. All right, if it is low, then it might it might take some sort of hard work to get the button to work, but if it is high, then it won't take that much hard work to make the button work. All right, so yeah, now now as we have created our virtual button, all right, we also have to add some functionalities to it. Right, now I'm going to create a script. All right, let me tell you first which script I'm going to create. All right, I'm going to create a script that will simply when you hover, all right, when you hover over the virtual button, all right, whenever you hover over the virtual button, what it will do is it will simply disable the cube, or let's say hide the cube. All right, as simple as that, nothing too complicate. All right, So yeah, let's start coding. Now, see, as you can see, I have created multiple folders in here, and I would suggest you should also create, because that would help you to structure your projects. Now, I would create another folder in here, that is virtual button scripts. All right. Now, I would create different types of folders for different types of tutorials. All right. Now, in here, create a C# script, and I'm going to name it virtual button. All right. Or let's say virtual button, or let's say button behavior, something like this, behavior. So it would take some amount of time to create the script. So now we have created our virtual button behavior script. All right, now it's our time to code it. All right, and you already know that what we are going to code. All right, so the very first thing, is we have to somehow target the cube. And all right, and before that, we also have to use a namespace. All right, we also have to use a namespace called Vueforia. All right, it's very important to make the virtual button functions to work. All right, so yeah, so I remove the comments and make sure that the void start function is there. All right, and if you have forgot what this void start function does, don't worry, I'm going to re-explain it. All right, the very first thing, all right, was to include the namespace Vueforia. Now, to like edit the cube, all right, or do something with the cube, we somehow have to uh, grab, or let's say get the reference to the cube, right? We have to somehow store that cube somewhere to be edited, right? So how do we do that? It's fairly simple. We have to create a variable that is public game object. All right, as it is a game object, so the data type I am keeping is game object. All right, and then cube. Now one thing you should note, all right, if you don't give public or give private, what will happen is this particular field won't be showed. All right, won't be showed in the inspector. If I had to show you, just wait. All right, let me show you. I have created this particular game object. All right, and let me show you in let the script compile. All right, let the script compile, and I will show you that what will happen if you don't give public. All right, now see, there are two ways to reference a variable. All right, I will be showing you two ways, both the ways actually, like the simple drag and drop referencing way, and another, that is using the script to reference. All right, so yeah. Now let's attach the cube to our image target. All right, you can create another empty game object and attach it in there. But the thing is that the process we'll be following up is it requires us to add the script in the image target only, in the image target game object only. There's a reason behind it. I would show you why. All right. It depends on our scripting procedure, and I'll be scripting it in that way that the script should be in the image target game object only. All right, so you can see that we aren't able to see any sort of variable, but we did create one. So let's give public. All right, see, by default, whenever you create a game object, all right, or any variable, it is it is private. All right, those variables are private by default. So make sure, if you want to make them public, if you want to make those variables public, then you should remember that to add public keyword in front of them. So now let's see if our cube, like if our variable has appeared. All right, so click on the image target and then go at the last and check in the script, in your script that you created, that the cube is coming or not. All right, so in here our cube variable is coming. Now what you have to do is select the cube. All right, select the cube and drag and drop it in this particular area. All right, or in this particular place. It is currently taking all the game objects that are of type game objects. All right, it is taking all the objects available in the scene that are type of game object. All right, so anything that is game object, it will take it in here. It can be stored in this variable. All right. Now another thing is that we have to create a private variable. All right, because I don't want anyone to edit it externally. So we have to give a data type, that is virtual button behavior, and let's name it button, or let's say V button, that is virtual button. All right, this you already know. If you don't give public in front of any sort of variable, what will happen? All right, now as we have created, all right, as we have created a virtual button, we have to reference it also, right? We also have to reference. So how should we do that? Right, it's very simple. All right, there are some functions, that is get component in children. We would be using get component in children because we are targeting the, like we are targeting the means, let me show you. All right, see, you can see in the Unity editor, all right, that this is the image target. All right, this is the main game object. All right, and the virtual button and the cube, all right, the virtual button and the cube are a children. All right, are a children of this main game object, right? So we are attaching the script in this game object. All right, and we will be trying, all right, we will be trying to access, all right, we'll be trying to access the particular virtual button behavior. All right, virtual button behavior script. All right, we'll be trying to access virtual button behavior script from the virtual button game object. All right, so we'll be doing this. So the very first thing, all right, see, as I told you that in normal state, all right, in normal state the cube should be hidden, right? And when we hover, all right, when we hover over the particular virtual button, all right, the cube should be visible. All right, that's what I told you, right? Now the very first thing is we have to make the cube invisible. All right, so cube dot set active and put false in here. So what will happen with this is, what will happen with this is, uh, whenever you start, all right, whenever the game is starting or the app is starting, at first, all right, at first instance, this cube will be deactivated. All right, or in simpler terms, it will be hidden. All right, and you know that what void start is. Void start runs only once whenever the application is starting. All right, so that's why whenever the app will start, we will run this particular function cube.setActive false, so that the cube gets hidden. All right, another thing is that you can simply hide it from the means hide it from the particular hierarchy panel from the scene only, but of course that isn't a good idea, so let's do it by script. Now you have to instantiate, all right, you have to like contain the virtual button behavior script. All right, so I am going to name it sorry, I have already named it, that is we have v button, sorry, v button. So yeah, now let's sort, what can I say, let's add, all right, let's reference that particular virtual button behavior script. All right, so you have to type this get component in children. All right, and inside of this particular greater than and lesser than arrows, you have to write the script name. All right, that is virtual button behavior. All right, now we have targeted the virtual button behavior script. Now, all right, now let's create two functions. All right, let's create another two function that will help us to activate and deactivate the script. So void on button pressed, we have to take a virtual button behavior as a parameter, sorry, VB. All right, and then what we have to do is whenever, all right, whenever the button is pressed, or you can say button is hovered, we have to set the state of the cube to true so that it is visible. All right, and whenever button is released, all right, released, whenever the button is released, what we are going to do is we are going to simply deactivate the cube. All right, so it is as simple as that. But all right, but we haven't like, see, whenever to make any sort of function work, right, or any sort of method work, we have to call it, right, we have to call that particular function. But in our case we haven't called it. Can you see where we have called it? See, now, all right, like when you create normal buttons, UI buttons, all right, in Unity, there are some sort of on click functions, right? In the button parameters, there are on click functions. In here, all right, in here there is no on click function available. So we have to uh, like create our own on click, all right, or you can say register these functions in our button. So how do we do so? It's fairly simple. All right, it is fairly simple. So select the button, all right, and then v button dot register on button pressed. All right, and inside the parenthesis pass the function on button pressed, because whenever the button is pressed, we have to run this particular on button pressed function. Now v button dot, again we have to do another thing, that is on button released. All right, so on button released. All right, so yeah, this is it. All right, this is it. Now let me recapitulate the whole code to you, all right, so that you won't get confused. The very first thing we did is to include the namespace using Vuforia. Then what we did, we created a game object, public game object, that is a cube, and referenced the cube to it. Then we created a virtual button behavior named v button. Then in the start, all right, in the void start, what we did, we like in the void start, we specified that whenever the application starts, deactivate the cube. All right, the cube should be hidden. Then after doing so, what we created two functions, all right, having virtual button behavior vb as a parameter. So the first function that we created is on button pressed. What it will do, whenever we are hovering over the button, or you can say whenever we put our hand over the button, that means that we have pressed the button. So that's why it is written on button pressed. So basically you are hovering over it. So this is what happens. Now whenever on button pressed function will be called, the cube will be will be restored. It won't be hidden anymore. But whenever the hand is released from the button, all right, whenever the button is released, again the cube will be hidden. After that, what we did is we referenced, right, we referenced our virtual button behavior script in our v button component, and then we used functions to call our own functions, right? Like v button dot register on button pressed. What it will do is, it these two works like on click. All right, whenever you are pressing the button, it will do some function, and we have passed the function. That is, whenever we will press the button, this particular on button pressed function should run. And another is that v button dot register on button released. All right, what will it do whenever the hand is released from the button? It will run the function on button released. All right, so let's save the script. Right, let's save the script and try it out in real time. Let's try it our basically let's try it our application that we created. The very first thing I would suggest you to do is to change the sensitivity setting to high. All right, and then click on play mode. All right, so as you can see it right in here. All right, here is my marker. You can see that whenever I am hovering over my hand, you can see that the cube is appearing, and whenever I am releasing my hand, the cube is going. All right, so this is how it basically works. All right, as simple as that. So congratulations, you learn to create how to create virtual buttons. But if you ask me what do I suggest, virtual buttons or UI buttons, believe me, UI buttons are far better than these virtual buttons. All right, so I would always recommend you to use UI buttons. Yeah, if there is a need to use virtual button, then only use it. All right, because these virtual buttons sometimes even doesn't tracks the hand. Like it's really hard to get them track the hand. Maybe it's because of my laptop's camera, but it is really problematic and creates a lot of problem and also breaks the user experience. So that's why I always recommend UI buttons. All right. So yeah.